Hello friends, today we are going to discuss video number 5. The topic of this video is conservation of culture. In this video, we are going to discuss some aspects related to the conservation of culture. After listening this video, you will be able to understand the concept of preservation and conservation of culture and appreciate the importance of conserving the culture. In the previous 4 videos, we gave you an introduction to Indian culture and heritage in the historical context. In this video, we will discuss the importance of the conservation of culture. The conservation of culture and heritage enriches a society and helps people appreciate its richness. In the sphere of cultural tourism, also the main idea is to familiarize people with Indian culture and tradition so that their efforts at selling it do not wrap its content. In the international tourism parlance, India is perceived as a cultural destination and the foreign tourist visiting India for the first time find it so fascinating that quite a few of them come again and again only to enjoy the Indian experience. This Indian experience is the USP of India's tourism. No wonder India is one such destination in the world where international tourists spend maximum days once they arrive in the country. India is replete with heritage resources in the form of art, architecture and archaeology, besides other cultural expressions like performing arts, dance, drama, fairs, festivals and the like. These cultural expressions constitute potential recreation resources. These resources coupled with heritage contribute to the richness of any landscape which can attract innumerable tourists looking for the cultural experience. Thanks to the launch of jumbo jet aircrafts and phenomenon of organized and mass tourism, a very large number of travelers cross their national or regional boundaries annually for the purpose of travel and tourism, and this resulted in the following aspect. First important result is surge in the economic activities and growth of the host country, or we can say growth of destination. Second very important aspect is employment generation. Third one is easy marketing of local arts and crafts. Fourth one is image projection of host destination and exposure of locals to the aliens resulting in cultural assimilation. Fifth important aspect of travel and tourism, or we can say development of travel and tourism at any destination or country, is familiarizing the tourist with the heritage, culture, tradition of a region, or we can say country. The negative impact of unregulated, unchecked and increasing number of tourist arrivals begins with the following results. There will be excessive burden on the goods and services of the host destination. taxing the ecological carrying capacity of the host ecosystem. That is the second negative aspect of development of travel and tourism. Third one is rise in the cost of goods and services because of gradual increase in demand, and in the process locals who are not well to do find difficult to survive. Fourth negative aspect is excessive dose of alien, or we can say foreign tourist, in a culturally fragile society may at times result in cultural pollution. Fifth one is, once this phenomenon of cultural pollution perversion starts, then it is extremely difficult to check it at once because of predominance of vested commercial interest in the prevailing socio-economic background. Now, after discussing these positive and negative aspects of travel and tourism, let us see what is conservation of culture. Cultural tourism on the one hand helps in earning foreign currency and developing tourism. It at the same time is also endangering the rich cultural tradition and heritage of India. The question is being hotly debated between the people who gain through this tourism and those who are worried about the destruction of this heritage. The people who tend to gain from the development of tourism are tourists and travel agencies, tour operator units, hotels, airline sectors, other transportation network, shopping area, the state earning foreign currency and other taxes, the local beneficiaries and trading groups, etc. The groups who are worried with this growing tourism include conservation groups, voluntary agencies or organizations advocating responsible tourism, and the state agencies responsible for conservation and management of resources in different areas. Now, a consensus is emerging that a balance has to be worked out between tourism and the threat to culture. However, it is not an easy task to maintain the balance. It is also felt that the conservation of one area of heritage and culture cannot be achieved in isolation. It has to be a concerted effort. The most important aspect of conservation is the participation of the local population, because the local population is the real owner of those culture, heritage and tradition. The state with vast resources is definitely in a better position to help in conservation efforts. Besides, non-governmental organizations, travel and tourism industry and other local bodies can also contribute in a positive way. Before moving to the efforts made to conserve the culture, let us first have an idea about the areas where conservation is needed. Indian heritage is vast and well spread. It is very difficult to include everything in this particular video. In brief, we will include environment and natural resources, historical heritage that includes archaeological sites and monuments, Indian literature and languages, Indian sculpture and paintings, Indian music, dance, tradition, theatre and folk art, handicrafts and crafts tradition, socio-economic heritage, etc. For the convenience of study, we will discuss these in some different broad sections, like first broad section is conservation of environment and natural resources. Second one is conservation of historical heritage, archaeological sites and monuments. Third one is conservation and preservation of our artistic and cultural heritage. Fourth one is conservation of socio-economic heritage with special thrust on protecting culturally, sociologically and economically sensitive, or we can say fragile communities like tribals and people living in hills, deserts and coastal areas. Now, let us discuss in detail how we can promote conservation of our culture in its broad sense. The kind of geographical diversity that we have in India is perhaps unique in the whole world. No other country can boast of offering such a variety of landscapes as India with its beautiful mountains, deserts, coastal areas, rivers and lakes and rich variety of fauna and flora. Goa is one of the best known tourism destination for the sea beaches, or we can say sea beach lovers in the world, and the desert of Rajasthan attracts domestic and international tourists by thousands every year. Himalayan tourism is also a unique experience, but the best of our natural heritage is our national parks and wildlife sanctuaries. Whether it is Unicorn Rhino in Kaziranga or a tiger in Ranthambore or Kanha National Park, an elephant in Periyar or a Siberian crane in Bharatpur. The sheer number and variety of fauna and flora available in our country is mind-boggling, and it is one of our major strengths in marketing our tourism products. But excessive interference caused by ever increasing number of domestic and foreign tourists to our ecosystem is proving counterproductive. Large number of tourist arrivals result in noise and air pollution of the host ecosystem, which in turn affects the well-being of its flora and fauna. Hence, it is essential that experts should work out the carrying capacities of these host ecosystems, and tourism authorities in consultation with forest authorities should work out the number of visitors to be allowed per year and per day. This has already been in practice in many wildlife sanctuaries of the world, and even in India at places like Ranthambore, Swai Madhopur, that is in Rajasthan, where thousands of tourists come annually to see the tigers. Ecotourism aims at promoting that kind of responsible tourism which is eco-friendly and which does not destroy the subtle environmental balance, or we can say linkages thriving between flora and fauna of a given habitat or micro ecosystem. If we fail to conserve our environmental heritage, then we will not be able to conserve our other heritage, because these are mainly dependent on the environment for their survival. Any imbalance in the ecological equilibrium would upset the tender linkages, resulting in major catastrophe and ecological disasters. The managing authorities of these ecological sensitive host ecosystems should formulate do's and don'ts for the visitors and the tour operators, which it should be enforced strictly. There is a great need to educate the visitors about frugal natural resources of the area and fragile carrying capacity at the destination. Our natural and environmental heritage is such a wonderful resource which gets regenerated, replenished by Mother Nature periodically, and visitors can really have a once in a lifetime experience, provided that the influx of visitors is eco-friendly and sustainable. Another aspect of natural heritage conservation or management is that the income generated by charging entry fee from the visitors should be plugged back into the system, and long-term scientific methods steps are undertaken to conserve the landscape and all its constituents. There is a great need to invest in research and development sector for various ecotourism destinations to ensure their proper care, proliferation and environmental health. Tourism and management of national parks available in USA, Europe and South Africa after suitably altering them to suit our specific problems and needs. Now, let us discuss conservation of historical heritage, archaeological sites and monuments. As we know that India's historical heritage includes not only the general and religious monuments dedicated to various faiths, but also archaeological sites, rock cut caves, palaces, havelis, homes and the living heritage developed over the countries, or we can say over the centuries. The heritage could be broadly divided into many groups. For example, first important group is our natural attractions. Under this natural attractions comes like nature reserves, nature trails, rare breed centers, wildlife parks, our zoos, butterfly parks, zoological parks, cliffs, waterfalls. Second one is socio-cultural attraction like prehistoric and historic sites, display that includes domestic house articles, our museums, costumes, sites related with epics, way of living, way of behaving, our story told by grandparents. These are under this category. Third category is stately and ancestral homes like palaces, forts, havelis. Then fourth category is religious attractions that includes our temples, samadhi, mosque, tombs, dargah, gurudwara, churches, wells, ponds, gram devta and our elaborated religious practices which is termed as activities. Fifth can be discussed as a science based attraction like science museums, technology parks and technology centers. Sixth one is attraction based on primary production like agricultural attractions, farms, fishing, mining, water reservoirs, craft centers, workshops like water and windmills, potters, wood carvers, glass makers. Seventh is attraction related to manufacturing like mass production goods like pottery, brassware, bangles, carpets, tea gardens, etc. Eighth category is transportation attractions like transportation museums, railway museums, our canals, old vehicles, etc. Eighth category is attraction associated with historic persons like sites or we can say areas, houses of writers, painters, social workers, political figures, freedom fighters, kings, queens, army men, sports person, film personality, our towns, our settlements, seaside resorts and other areas. Now, the ninth category is performing arts attraction that includes our theatres, state based performing arts, our circus, musical groups, our qawwalis, dance, drama, etc. Ninth can be fairs and festivals like historic fairs, mela, gatherings, seasonal fasting and fairs, processions like Tajia, village level competitions, celebration of Kajri, Teej, Patola, these things. 10th category is military attractions, our battlefields, naval dockyards, military museums, castles. 11th is related with regions, trees and animals like our mountains, for example Kailash mountain, our trees, shrubs like tulsi, people, even black deer, cow, buffalo, etc. So, these are the categorization of resources which can be converted into a tourism product. The above classification is by no means perfect. We have divided them into these categories for the convenience of the present study. Most of these monuments are of visitors' interest only, while some of these are part of living culture and are used by people as places of worship. In the category of living culture may be included Puri temple, Delhi's Jama Masjid, temples of South India, Char Dham, Shakti Peeth, tombs and many more. Need for a separate conservation treatment in respect of these has been brilliantly pointed out by A.G. Krishna Menon in a article, The Dilemma of Cultural Tourism in India. Efforts are made all over the world for the protection of historical heritage. You will listen in detail about the monuments and sculpture and archaeological sites and antiquities in other units and videos. France was the first country to enact a law in the year 1809 for the protection of cultural property. India enacted Indian Treasurer Row Act in 1878. Greece enacted a law in 1887 for excavated property and Egypt for regulation of excavations in 1897. Again in the year 1904, Ancient Monuments Preservation Act was passed in India for preservation of monuments, excavation, protection and control of antiquities. The Indian legislature also passed the Antiquities, that is Export Control Act in 1947, under which no antiquity could be exported outside the country without permission of the Government of India. The Archaeological Survey of India, that is ASI, was established in the year 1861. Besides other functions, it was made responsible for the preservation of monuments, archaeological sites and remains and other important antiquarian and artistic vestiges. The concept of declared historical monument as of national importance was introduced by Government of India in the year 1951. The ASI is also the implementing agency of two central legislations like Ancient Monuments and Archaeological Sites and Remains Act 1958. Second one is the Antiquities and Art Treasures Act 1972. The total number of centrally protected monuments and sites are now nearly 3,700 in India. Archaeology being a concurrent subject, other states of India also enacted similar legislation based on the Central Act and protected monuments and antiquities which have been in existence for not less than 100 years. In case of paintings and manuscripts, it is 25 years for declaring them as an antiquity under the Act. My dear friends, in this video, we discussed some aspects of cultural tourism and the significance of conservation of culture. We also discussed various areas of our culture and heritage that need conservation. Importance of these are our natural resources, historical heritage, artistic and cultural heritage and socio-economic heritage. You must have realized that for the conservation of culture, concerted efforts are required by people in general, government, voluntary agencies, tourism, trade and local bodies. Tourism, like any other economic activity, has positive and negative impacts in a given area or situation. Our efforts should be to monitor the growth of tourism and initiate steps to regulate the activity by enforcing reasonable restrictions, or we can say code of conduct for the tourist. Thank you.